All right. Well, everyone, we'd like to thank you for coming to today's PK. We have Giselle from Kellogg Garden Products. She'll be doing a presentation on their soils today. And don't want to miss next Thursday where she'll be doing her presentation on fertilizers. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, Giselle. Giselle.
Wonderful. Carrie, thank you, and John and all the NNBA members. I appreciate all of you that are here today. And I'm going to just dive in. It's going to be very fast paced, but I will make sure you get follow-up information. Any feedback you have is totally welcome for me. So this is the first question we often get at Kellogg is, are you related to the cereal company? And so, so this first part, I'm going to share a little bit of history so that you know a little bit about who we are, a little bit about science, very little, and then primarily PK. So these brothers immigrated from England to Connecticut and Massachusetts. All Kellogg's do descend from them. They are related, but there's no company affiliation. They kilned logs, and that's how they got the name Kellogg, and we've been around since 1925. And actually, the fourth generation is now working at Kellogg. They're all three of them are doing something for Kathy Kellogg's kids. They're in their 20s, and then Hap's son is in the business. So we're fourth generation, celebrating 95 years. We grew up with organic gardening. I say we. I've been here 21 years, but the family did. We put the O in organic. The organic innovation and sustainably sourced materials is a real emphasis for us. It's very important that we try to use byproducts from other industries instead of taking pristine materials, which we do a little of, but we use wood to a lot of that, and I'll get into some of that. Has become a national brand. We are a company that has two brands and two channels of trade, and Gardner Bloome is an independent only brand. We own two facilities in Ontario and in Lockford, and then the facility where you get your products is in Longview. I'll show you some pictures. This is the grandfather. He was a surveyor. He's the one that started the company. Here's
Awesome, Brothers Garden
house, and this was donated to the city. This is what the house looks like today. And they bring children in. It is completely decorated from back in the era of this time. And there's statues with clothes, and the kids get to go in, and we have gardens there that we donate material to, but the city manages it and maintains it. Some of our old trucks. We started actually in the agricultural markets and then went into the urban markets. And you can see the bags on the right. Those are 100-pound paper sacks, sewn, each bag opened, open mouth and then sealed by sewing it. This is how we revitalized the fruit trees, the orange trees in Orange County. What was happening is people were farming the life out of the soil, picking up their family, going to another piece of property, and then doing the same thing. What we did is we did top-down gardening. We mulched these trees, and slowly but surely they started to come back. So I can't imagine any of us wearing any of this at a trade show, but really fun, just so you can see. And this is the Kellogg label, but I just wanted you to see a little bit more about who we are. You can see that, we have products that we've used for a long time. This is the second generation, and people came from all over the world to learn how to compost from the Kellogg's. We have a history of educating. When I came to Kellogg, I had a territory for about a year, and then I went to Hap Kellogg and said, this is what I feel like I'm better suited for, is education. And so that's what I've been doing now for the past 20 years. So we nurtured the victory gardens of World War II. We have deep roots, all puns intended. This is the 50-year anniversary of Rachel Carson's Silent Spring. For any young folks, if you haven't read this yet, it's an extraordinary book, and she has other books that are absolutely wonderful to read. It's a very important book, and it shows that one person can make a difference. Now, some of you may or may not know, but we have deep roots in Orange County with Disneyland as well. And when they wanted to build the Jungle Cruise ride, which I just saw that they're going to redo that, it was on the news the other day, But when they wanted to build the Jungle Cruise ride, tropicals need an acidic environment, right? There's a lot more moisture, so the soil is more acidic in a tropical, wetter environment. But we're in Southern California where it's dry. When the soil is dry, the pH is high. So we made the acid planting mix to transform these soils. Now, Walt Disney, Walter Knott, and Mr. Kellogg were all on the Farm Bureau together. They all started the Farm Bureau in California. Just to show you our Kellogg King, this is of course on the Kellogg bags, but this was designed by the Disney Studios, just so you can see a little bit more about who we are. Angel Stadium reseeding, this is all through the use of our products that you can use on top of the soil. They had a motocross race, ripped up that whole field, and we had 3 weeks to get that ball field back up and ready to play. So, you know, we've been at this for a long time. We are part of the Getty Museum, Hearst Castle, a lot of the casinos in Vegas. So here's another thing that we do. So we are very much involved in our communities. It's been painful for us that we've not been able to give because we want to make sure our customers get product. And I'll share what we are doing to make sure that that the pipeline is always filled. But this is a big part of who we are. This is where gardeners grow. There's a reason that they're called nurseries. We send our children to nurseries and kindergarten, and we grow plants at nurseries. We have such an opportunity to really help cultivate the next generation of gardeners. This is another thing we do. We give to an organization. We've been with them for about 10 years. And the Paradise fertilizers, every bag you sell, a portion goes to this organization. I consider them an agricultural ministry, if you will. They help people figure out what kind of crop to grow, how to compost, you know, and give them microloans. And then the other product are the biochar products, and we'll get into that as well. But this is something that is, you know, worldwide. This is not just in our, you know, in our country. We're seeing this all over the planet, and we all know that. But I think we all still need to really educate our customers more on this issue. I wanted to bring this in from the United Nations Food and Ag Organization. They are saying that we have 60 seasons left, 60 years left of harvest at the current rate of soil loss and degradation. That's extraordinary. What we've done in 100 years, in less than 100 years, the impact that we are having because of tillage practices and erosion and synthetics and all of that. So this is a sister company of ours. I just wanted to show you Organic Control. Kellogg bought this company about 6 or 7 years ago. So these are some of the packages. This is another product line. If you do not know about this product, I think I would highly recommend it. You cannot get it from us at Kellogg. It would be through your local distributor. It's a 3-in-1. It's made from sesame oil. It's super effective, and it's safe on the honeybees. So there's another collateral product. I can send this information to you, and you'll also get the presentation, so you'll be able to go back and take a look. So we consider ourselves, and I think our industry would like to consider ourselves as stewards of the environment. We all could do a better job. Being a steward of the environment is who we are at Kellogg. We responsibly choose the products we carry. And in nature, there is no such thing as waste. We are the waste producers. Recycling is more than a passion, it's a necessity. And together we can encourage more people to use materials that are better for the environment and certified organic. So recovering organic materials, wood fiber, any of the sawdust, the bark, irregular pieces of wood, we grind it down. This is rice hulls on the right. Years ago, they would put all the remnants in teepee burners and burn it. And you can't do that anymore. In 1972, we had the Clean Air and Water Act. We could no longer burn just freely the way that we wanted to. Plus, we needed to take matter and get it back into the soil profile. So carbonaceous materials, bark, wood byproducts of the lumber industry, tree trimmings or arbor fines, rice hulls, stable bedding, and biochar are just some of those materials. Of course, manures. I never thought I'd go to college. I hope I don't offend anybody to be a professional shit saleswoman, but that's what I do. And it's not like you grow up saying, this is what I'm going to do for a living. But I will tell you, I feel privileged to be working in this capacity and helping to reshape how people see what we do every day, all of us. So poultry and turkey, cow and steer, guanos, castings, bat guano, kelp, inoculums. We're always on the hunt for something that is going to be effective and that we can get a volume of, because we have a lot of product we need to produce. So this was our facility last year in Southern California. This is it this year. I've never been more proud of Kellogg than I am of what they've accomplished after the year that we all had last year. And we have more land, more product on the ground. All of our bags are ordered. We have literally increased. We've hired 30 people in operations. So we take this seriously to fill that pipeline so you have product to sell. So this is Southern Cal. This is a soil rollout, what we call our beauty contest. We want to make sure that every batch we make looks the same and is consistent. This is our facility in Central California. This was an old lumber mill, and it's about 23 acres. The other one is probably a little upwards of that. But this is in Lockford, which is by Lodi, wine country. Services mostly Northern California. This is the facility, which is much larger. I couldn't find a newer picture, in Longview, which is where you get your products from. So here's your product, ready to get loaded for you to take into your stores. I mean, have you ever seen a cleaner facility? They run such a tight ship here. That's Kathy Hall. She runs operations. Kim Theory makes sure all the trucks go out, organizes all the trucks. Tino, who's going to retire at the end of this year. And everybody loves Tino because he helps clean up your soil decks. He's just been a great asset to Kellogg for many, many years. Brett Demarais works the facility, makes sure we load up all of our trucks. This is Jerry, of course, call him Uncle Jerry. I think it was last year he won the first Lifetime Achievement Award for NNBA. That is something that should be mentioned. He's very deserving. And on the right, Tia is our newest hire. She's been with us already 3 years. I can hardly believe it. I've worked with about 5 people in the Northwest, and I want you to know that this is a real pleasure and an honor for me to be here, because I haven't really had the opportunity to speak with a lot of you. So I am grateful. So your impact individually and collectively matters. You are not just selling soil, you're selling solutions to success. High-end selling solutions to success for the homeowner and for your place of employment. It's win-win-win. The work we do matters to the communities and to restoring the earth. So we know if soil, we're going to have healthy gardens, critters, people, and the ecosystem. Every one of you is a leader in your community. So beneath the surface of the soil, there's a whole world we're just beginning to understand. Roots have evolved to exude carbohydrates, to be symbiotic and feed the soil microbes. Roots loosen the soil. Nitrogen fixing plants add nitrogen. Humus is created. Roots develop tunnels for earthworms and vice versa. The nutrients are cycled to feed the system, and from life comes death, and from death comes life. Compost is one of the greatest ways for us to really see that we can really create life after death. So the root of the matter, soil, flora, and fauna act as nature's little fertilizer factories, using the creation of humus, among other processes, and they liberate unavailable nutrients into a soluble form. Okay, I'll simplify this a little bit. Basically, the biology in the soil mineralizes it, breaks it down, and makes it into a form that the plant can then utilize. We are a different system. When you're working with organics, it is a very different system. We're working with Mother Nature instead of trying to control her, because we can see can spit us off, she'll recalibrate herself and she will be just fine. But we need to have home and habitat as well. So soil, as you all know, is the backbone of all of life. Feeding the life in the soil is key to success. We need to start thinking holistically and view each landscape and each ecosystem unique. One size does not fit all. Okay, we are OMRI listed. So in 1992, we had the organic food. So we have USDA, United States Department of Ag, regulating chemical ag for many, many years. Really, the Back to the Earth movement started in the 60s, but it took us until 1992 to create a definition and laws of what the organic standards would be. So we have USDA regulating chemical ag, then we have the NOP, the National Organic Program, developed in the early 90s. It took them a decade to decide on what the standards would be that we have to abide by, just like a farmer, just like a processor. We're all inspected. We have to follow certain guidelines. It is no easy feat. So OMRI was developed in 1997. They're national organization. They actually now are also in Canada, and they may be doing work in Europe as well. The second sentence, I feel, says it all. So it is a nonprofit, but it is expensive to have all of these materials listed. So we are OMRI listed, which means every single ingredient has already been approved for organic production. If we buy chicken manure from a chicken farmer, they have to be approved by OMRI, and OMRI follows the NOP, the National Organic Program, okay? So they make sure that we're in compliance with the laws. So OMRI provides organic certifiers, growers, manufacturers, and suppliers an independent review of products. So it's not us telling you, it's OMRI, intended for use in certified organic production, handling, and processing. And again, I'm going to send this over so you'll have more of this if you want to dig deeper. You can see on the left, 100% organic ingredients, the manufacturing process is documented. All of those things are tested: nutrients, metals, sulfur, bacteria, fungi, and humates. It is actually very challenging. And there are new laws and new changes that are happening all the time, and we have to dive with those things. On the right, you'll see no synthetics, no contamination, no radiation, no genetically modified materials can be used. So like cottonseed meal. We used to use a lot of cottonseed meal, but most of the cotton today is GMO. So OMG, no GMO, can't use it. And also no biosolids are allowed in the organic system. So this is just to show you the incredible process that we have to go through for every single ingredient and for every product. So it is really a challenge. Now, we are also CDFA approved, which is California Department of Food and Ag. And you see that OIM, Organic Input Materials. That's what this is all about. It's all about the materials that we put into the system, okay? So we all would like to believe that, our economy and this game thing that's now, up to what, $400 or $500 on the stock market, that's the most important economy. And it is important. Our economy is important as well. But without this economy, ours is not going to serve us very well. So this is what we focus on. How do we build and grow healthy soil so that we can grow healthy crops, animals, and people, and a healthy environment? They all go together. Soil is the link that helps all of these systems come into place. So all of you know that there are 4 key components to healthy soil. You typically have about 45% mineral, a combination of sand, silt, and clay. You have to have 25% air, 25% oxygen, water holding. So breathability and moisture holding. You have to have both. And then we strive for 5% organic matter. And on the bottom left, you can see that in this 5% organic matter, I don't know, can you see this box on the bottom of my screen? Maybe I just see it, it's okay. So on the bottom, you'll see organic matter 5%, and you'll see that it's 10% organisms, 10% roots, and then the rest 80% humus, okay? And you can see it up here as well. So 45% mineral, 25% water, air, and then microorganisms, roots, and humus are in that component. So this is why we have to know. So we need to ask questions of our customers. When somebody comes in and wants to buy a plant, and we're going to find out, okay, is it in the ground? Is it in a raised bed? Is it in a container? We know that if it's in the ground, we have to know how to guide them. So this is one of the things that I'm adding, because Jerry is such a professional. I call him Uncle Jerry. He's always using his time wisely with customers. So as we're walking out to the plants, that's an opportunity to say, so what kind of soil do you have? And also you're going to have an idea about the soils in your area, but then you can guide them. Soil has to be part of the conversation. It's not just them walking out with plant material, as much as a customer might like to do that. You can see that sand, water washes through it. Silt, the water does bleed down through the soil system, but it doesn't get to the root zone as well as it could. And clay is the most difficult to get down into the root zone. So this is another thing I'm going to have you look at again later. I'll just point out a couple of things. So ability to compact, sand very low, right? Silt moderate, clay high. Clay particles are like dominoes. They stack on top of each other like dominoes. We need to wedge that soil apart. Literally wedge the particles open so the soil can breathe, so water can percolate, so there's a better nutrient exchange capacity. In sand, it's the opposite. There's so much oxygen that the goal there is to glue the particles together to slow the water down so plants can utilize that nutrient. Okay, soil fertility, low in sand, moderate to high in clay. Water holding capacity, low in sand, high in clay. So this is a great little chart that I think is very basic and a good way for us to kind of really get a handle on our soils. And of course, it's very simplified. Here's our family of solutions, and we have a whole array of products. Now, so Kellogg bought Gardner Bloome, which used to be called, oh gosh, the name just slipped my mind. It'll come back. And we bought this company in, Duncan, are you on the call? I can't remember the name of it, sorry. Anyway, Kellogg bought this company in 1999. And we bought it specifically for you, for our independent garden centers. And they were very similar. Their approach was very similar. Their culture was similar. They believed in sourcing raw materials that were already byproducts of the lumber industry. So this really is a product line that is dedicated to the independent garden center. Okay, let's look at product categories. Potting soils and potting mixes, planting mixes, composted manures, amendments, and mulches. Now, we have gone from a pandemic to a plantdemic. We are seeing seeds fly off the shelf, veggies, herbs, anything that people can grow in their yard. Because what we have found over the years is every time there is a financial crisis, a planetary crisis, a health crisis, this is what happens. We are some of the most fortunate people on this planet that we are considered essential and that our work is essential. And so I feel like, this is something that I feel like not only have plants become part of the pandemic, in people wanting those products, but so have soils, as we all found out. So these are just some of the things that people are still interested in. Tropicals, in the 80s, I had a business, an interior landscape company, working in hotels and model homes and some restaurants. Tropicals back then, especially in San Diego, big business. And now it's back again. They call that plant parenting for the younger generations. So customer engagement and interaction right? Our role is to engage, ask questions. We are soil, sun, plant, pest, and solution detectives. Asking the right questions directs your answers or directs your actions. What kind of project are you working on today? In-ground, raised bed, container, mulching. Now you know which way to direct, influence, and guide them. The words we recommend are powerful words. Humble yet confident, always learning. And then, of course, I can't see the bottom here. Let's see if I can move this without messing up my, well, I know what it says. It's humus, humility, humor, humanity, humane, and one other thing, which I can't see because it's blocked. But I think that that just really shows that connection that we are to the earth. It's ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The whole cycle comes back around. You can't work in this industry, or I can't, and not see the beauty in all of the metaphors that we have in life. Seeds, all the seasons in life, and just the connection that we have to nature, and we get to share that with people. Okay, so something just happened. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go. Oh, maybe I did Zoom share.
No, we can still see your screen. It says customer engagement, Giselle.
Oh,
Whoop.
okay. I apologize.
That's okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay, GBO potting soils. I kind of wanted to break them up into different categories. So potting soils and potting mixes, ready to use material. Plants can be planted directly into that potting soil. Now, potting soil has to be very precise because it's in a container and there's no wiggle room for air when it comes to feeding plants. Whereas in the ground, the surface area is so much larger, so there's a lot more wiggle room. But we have GBO potting, red bag potting, we call it, blue ribbon blend, Eden Valley potting soil with biochar, and then raised bed is our potting mix, okay? So potting soils, any size containers, raised beds, hanging baskets, in-ground amending. We could use it. We're going to talk about some options for if you do run out of product, which we don't foresee happening, but it could. So there are some solutions, some crossover products. So again, when you look at products, my system is so sensitive, I apologize. So when you look at our ingredients, anytime you see recycled forest products as the first ingredient versus, let's say, peat moss, we use the wood because we wanted to displace using so much peat moss. It's a byproduct that we can use. We still do use peat, but the texture is very different. You can feel that coarser texture in the product when it's recycled forest products versus, say, a peat-based mix. So these product profiles, all of you will be getting, so I'm gonna go to some of the uses because you will have that to look at. So it's a great all-purpose potting soil, ideal for indoor and outdoor potting projects. It's a wood, peat, rice hull, and perlite-based potting soil. So the potting mix and the potting soil that has perlite, red bag potting soil, raised bed potting mix. The two potting soils that have pumice is blue ribbon blend and the biochar, okay? And we will get back into that again. So drains well for those that like to kill their plants with kindness. It rules the day every day, a solid go-to potting soil. It's a good bang for your buck and it's a great value. This product has probably been around for about 35 to 40 years, I would guess. Now we have raised bed potting, or excuse me, blue ribbon blend with mycorrhizal fungi, okay? Again, formulated for indoor and outdoor containers. Peat-based mix. You can see that in the ingredient listing here. Peat, core, pumice, then recycled forest products. A whole host of organic nutrients, which we are going to go over in depth next week. So I hope you can make it to that. And we add the mycorrhizal fungi to it. Okay. So a different texture, kind of moving more towards a grower's mixed. Great for hanging baskets and raised bed planting. You can use this in existing garden soil to enhance the texture. And you can enhance your pots or restore the nutrients in the organic matter in your containers, which we do need to do every few years. Okay, let me go to the way to wrap our arms around it. So it's a top shelf product with quality ingredients, peat and core based, humus with mycorrhizal fungi. Plants root faster with transplants in this mix. The planter boxes, the hanging baskets, the raised beds, the house plants. This is great for indoor or outdoor. It has exceptional water holding capacity, outstanding performance, and even those underground tomato growers are buying it. Many of them now are above ground. I'll let you figure that one out. We didn't cater to them. They just found us because the product works and it's a good price point for the cannabis trade. So very interesting. We did not cater to that customer base, but they are buying our products as well. This is some of the coconut core that's in the mix. It's sustainable and renewable. We get most of it from Sri Lanka and from Vietnam. You might say, well, okay, your carbon footprint is very expanded. Well, that's where the coconuts grow, right? One of the largest places where you can grow them. Now, unlike peat moss, it's a neutral pH, okay? Here's the challenge for us as a producer. 1 pallet of coconut core takes 450 gallons of water to break up the blocks because they come in blocks. So it's super labor intensive, and we do use it. The 2 products that have it are Blue Ribbon Blend potting soil and the raised bed potting mix, okay? And I don't think well, we'll get to that. So it holds 7 times its dry weight in water, just like peat does, highly porous, high in root stimulating hormones, and high lignin content. And it also has a naturally occurring trichoderma to offend against pathogens in the soil. So we have mycorrhizal fungi in there as well, naturally occurring beneficial fungi. They form a symbiotic relationship with the plant, and they extend the surface area of the root zone. This is what it looks like under the soil horizon. This is what we call nature's World Wide Web. It's the original World Wide Web. I think I have one more slide on mycorrhizae later. These are some of the opportunities, balcony gardens. We are seeing high-rise apartment buildings going up in different areas, different communities. So small space gardening, containers with the thriller, the filler, and the spiller, and then of course raised beds. And raised beds was such an incredible launch for us, that product was, because it just tells you what it's for. Houseplants, back big. Okay, potting mixes. Now, we came out with the 2 cubic foot potting mix for a couple of reasons. One was the baler couldn't make bales fast enough last year. Our operations people did the math on every piece of equipment and said, what can we produce? Because every time you change a bag, you lose time. We had no time to waste. We ran our crews almost 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. I think it was 6 days a week, 20 hours a day, daytime crew, nighttime crew. So we decided we need to make a 2 cubic foot bag, and they did it in a very short amount of time. So now you have an option for customers. It also is maybe easier to handle for certain customers. So you're going to have a different customer base for either of those products. And I would say the raised bed in the 2 cube is a slightly lighter mix as well. So did you make your bed today? Are you a bed maker? And of course, I'm talking about these types of beds. Raised beds are just tremendous. anything that makes it easy for a customer to build their own raised bed, whether it's block. I love the water troughs. Those are really cool. So it's ready to use and it's also great for large containers. You can add this to existing raised beds and large containers, of course, to restore the nutrients in the soil. You can also mix this in with native soil if you wanted to. It also, we add coconut coir for greater moisture retention. We have our nutrient cocktail is worm castings, kelp meal, and bat guano. Okay, that's typically, and then other materials we will add in as well. But that's typically our nutrient cocktail. Okay, let me go to the next slide. This is how we wrap our hands around it. So raised bed potting mix, 2 cubic foot size, lighter size, caters to the customer for satisfaction and handling. It's great for whiskey barrels or large planters, including raised beds. The 3 cubic foot project size for those with large projects, strong backs, and big trucks. It has enough nutrition in it to root the plant, but it will need more down the road. I think good gardening practices are we add it when we plant it in the planting hole. So it's best to add fertilizer at the time of planting and water it in with the fish, molasses, and seaweed based fertilizer. Now, I know that it says no mixing, but this is something that both Jerry and Tammy always used to talk about, baking biscuits. When you use raised bed, what we all do is we use it as the base to fill your bed and then top it with, you have it several different choices. Harvest Supreme, super nutrient charged. You could use chicken manure. You could use farmyard blend. You could use garden soil. You can use worm castings, and putting that over the top and fluffing it in to the top 6 inches. Now you've supercharged it, because we might as well do it when we're preparing and making our beds. We also add our fertilizer and worm castings right in the planting hole at time of planting. So you have some options to supercharge the mix. Will it work on its own? Yes, but it will be much more effective if you, bare bones minimum, you want to sell them a tomato, vegetable, and herb fertilizer to go in the planting hole. If you can bend their ear a little longer and get them to understand, I would recommend another option would be even compost, right? The purely compost. So you have options that you can work with. Sorry, I get a little excited. My time is probably getting tighter here. Okay. So here's the 3 cubic foot bale. Again, this is really for that customer that wants that value. And actually the Northwest is the only market where it's still available. When we're out in the South, we're out. So you have more options up there. The Northwest, you are tough people in the Northwest. You got to deal with weather. It is an emerging, booming market for us, and we want to be good partners to you. So this product, again, it's a 3-in-1, 3 cubic foot bale, a 3 cubic foot bale. Farmscapes, is a company down here. They say their motto is, instead of landscaping, it's time to farmscape. And so they do this for companies and homeowners. This is a home garden, and this is we just did a new raised bed. This is at our office here at Carson. So really a cool business idea. Okay, planting mixes. Now this is these are all 3 of these are bonus 3-in-1 products, okay? So what do I mean by that? So these are the ones that are planting mixes. They're acid planting mix, the GBO traditional planting mix, which is an all-purpose planting mix, palm, cactus, and citrus, rose, and flower. So what I mean, somehow my slide got a little messed up there. So here's what I mean by a planting mix. A planting mix is exactly that. It's to be used across the nursery, any type of plant, in the ground, 50-50, to make sure that plant has a good foundation. It can also be used as a top dress or a mulch around plants. And we can use it in a container, 5-gallon and larger. So amend with native soil, 1-to-1 ratio, 50-50, Container mix, containers larger than 5 gallon. If it's smaller, we recommend a potting soil because this does drain well. Use for raised beds. This was part of the recipe for our raised beds before we made it. It was raised bed pot, excuse me, it was our planting mix and our Harvest Supreme. I think it was 3-to-1. Customer buying landscape plants like rhodies and Japanese maples, and half are going to go in the ground and the remaining go in containers. The acid planting mix covers both bases. So this is a way to be effective with your customers and save them money and make it a little bit easier, right? So 50-50, I already covered this. It looks like mulch at the base of the plants. It adds organic matter and holds moisture. It's a finer, all 4 of them are different from each other, but they're a finer texture than Harvest Supreme and Soil Building Conditioner. Those are coarser because they're designed to open a soil, to wedge a soil. So again, great for raised beds. If you should ever run out of potting soil, raised bed or raised bed potting mix, you can use planting mix, okay? So if you ever run out of your potting soil or potting mix, planting mix is a solution for your containers. Okay. Acid planting mix, same, this is such a huge category. Any of you that are in the eastern part over the mountains and you have high alkaline soils, you're missing an opportunity to have a product that customers need for all their acid loving plants. So direct planting, garden soil amendment, it's effective when soil drainage is a problem. The pH is 5.5, which is ideal for any of your acid loving plants. So it's a must have, it's underappreciated, and it's a huge category of plants. Upward of half the plants sold require an acidic soil. Acid or shade loving plants, you know the ones. GBO acid is 5.5. Give it another look, especially if you're east of the mountains and points north with alkaline soil. When it's dry, the pH is high. This is your solution. Wetter conditions produce a more acidic condition. And again, I can't read the last sentence because something's weird with my system. So here's just a few of the plants that you all carry, right? From azaleas to raspberries, to bleeding hearts, to dogwoods. You sell them, and this is the right product to go with it. Some of the acid lovers, rose and flower planting mix. Again, same concept. The 2 things I want to highlight on this product is alfalfa meal is one of the fertilizers. We will talk more about nutrients next week. And also, thank you, Tia, for my time alert. And also alfalfa meal. So the Janice Kellogg rose, this was a lovely rose that we had named for her. She has passed away now. Gosh, it's probably already 5 years. And when the Kellogg's lost her, we all lost her. She was a lovely lady. So be like a rose, no matter how many thorns you encounter in life, bloom. And we will see more thorns coming into the nursery. People are stressed. We don't know what's going on in their lives. And we need to really ground ourselves as much as we're grounding the earth to grow plants. So 3-in-1, again, I've kind of talked about this one, but the alfalfa and the bone meal are gourmet rose recipes, nutrients. Planting mix, in ground, mulch, container mix, 5 gallon and larger. This was part of our recipe for raised beds, okay? Lovely mix. If you run out of any potting soil and if you need an all-purpose potting mix that you can also use as a container mix, this is great for that. Okay, I'm going to leave this for next time. I'll pass that along. Palm, cactus. This is a huge category. Actually, down here in Southern California, we have landscape contractors that buy this for hard pan clay soil and they use it in their landscape. So palms, cactus, succulents, tropical plants, plumeria, citrus. Of course, some of these don't grow up in your area as well, but people grow them as annuals. Indoor and outdoor use can also be used, you know, in rock gardens. There's other applications that you can use these in, but huge category. Jerry says, You can use this 6 ways to Sunday. Great for containers and as a planting mix. Excellent for rock gardens and dish gardens. Plants that need excellent drainage can be used in a clay soil. All the different plant categories, and you can top dress rock gardens as soil settles. So all the different ways. Another thing to think about when you're working with containers, plastic containers hold moisture. They sweat. You always want to sell a tray and the cork board to go underneath it, especially if it's going indoors, on floors, on carpets. Terracotta breathes, but glazed terracotta does not. So different watering applications also when you're using these different types of containers. So we want to share that with our customer. Purely Compost. The company that made compost a household name was a company I worked for 25 years ago that many of you know. It was a Northwest brand, was Whitney Farms. And they used that word compost. And so people ask for compost every day. Day in and day out, this is a product that you should be selling for everything you sell in the nursery. So it's a premium all-purpose compost, trees, shrubs, flowers, vegetables, bulbs. Also ideal as a top dressing. Sometimes you need to add a little top dressing on your raised bed or your vegetable garden. You don't want to dig it in, but you want to add a little more nutrients, a little more organic matter, hold that moisture into the soil. And this is a finer texture than, say, Harvest Supreme. So it's going to be really good in those types of applications, okay? People ask for compost. Gourmet composted manures. Okay, let me go back. Ingredients are bark fines, composted dairy, chicken, seabird, and seabird guano. The only product that we have that has seabird. Okay, I'm going to move on just so I can get to the other products. Manures, pretty self-explanatory. You use less in the soil. Planting mix, amendments, you might use 2 inches over the top and mix it in. A composted manure, you might use 3 parts native soil to 1 part manure, okay? So much more concentrated, 1 part manure to 3 parts native soil. And some of the examples, chicken, farmyard, and earthworm castings, never plant directly into a manure. Okay, basically, I'm going to pass these and go to some of the other products, but composted chicken manure, this can be used the way that you would use Harvest Supreme. But Harvest Supreme is kind of your premium. And these are other options. We have certain communities and cultures that will only buy composted chicken manure. So this is really great to amend your soil, to top dress, to as a side dress, and you can also use this as a seed cover on lawns. So Farmyard Blend, this is our plethora of poop. Same type, beautiful product. Same type, if manures can be beautiful, our manures are. Again, elevate nutrients and moisture holding. Top dress, side dress also can be used to cover lawn seed, okay? About 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch is really all you need. Again, I'm gonna pass on this one, but I'm gonna send you that information. Worm castings. If you are not using our worm castings yet, I invite you to take a look at them. They are beautiful. And it is worm castings in the planting hole for everything. Vegetables, herbs, any types of perennials, trees, shrubs. And I mean, it's kind of a, a couple tablespoons in a 4-inch pot or a little pot, a handful and a couple, in a 1 gallon, maybe a couple cups mixed into the planting hole for larger containers. So earthworm castings, I'm going to talk a lot more about it next week. Let me just give you a little bit today. Rich in nutrients, it adds microbial activity. The microbial activity or action in worm castings can be 10 to 20 times higher than the soil going into the worm. There are enzymes, plant hormones, and they deposit microbes out through the back end. And they also attract more earthworms. They contain a mucus around the castings. I know a little bit too much about earthworm poop, but that allows, it almost becomes like a water soluble fertilizer or like a a slow release fertilizer, because first you have to break down that mucus and then that nutrient becomes available. It also minimizes insects like whiteflies. So it's great to use as a top dress. Now that mucus will make it repel water if you lay it on top of the soil. So you want to cover it with a compost or some kind of other material like a mulch. You'd use about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch of worm castings all the way out to the drip line, and then cover it with the planting mix or a compost. Water it in, the water goes through the worm castings, and then the chitinase, the enzyme that's found in the worm castings, gets drawn up into the plant and the insects leave the plant. Awesome way of controlling insects. More on worm casting tea next week. Gotta give you a little spin so you come next week. Premium topsoil to fill holes and trenches and minor excavations. What I really want you to know is that this is a sandy loam. If you have a low spot on a lawn and you put a planting mix in that hole, what's going to happen? 2 months later, you're going to have a low spot. When you put this on a lawn, you need good footing. This is the product for that. So for trenches, minor excavations, areas where there's erosion between and under stepping stones to level areas, it can be used as a seed cover, and people are using this in raised beds to anchor the raised bed. Because if you think about it, we make soil less mediums, right? So this is a way to get some minerals into that soil, and that helps with nutrient capacity. Doesn't have to be a lot, but it's another way that we're seeing people use our products. Okay, so I'll pass on that one. Star Power amendments, because these are two of the stars, and I should have started with these. Both of these very coarse. Soil building conditioner has about 5% nitrogen in it. The planting mix, the traditional planting mix has about 7% chicken, and Harvest Supreme has 15%, okay? So this is our most nutrient fortified product, right? It's a pre-fertilized planting mix, and not garden soil, but that should have been taken out of there. I guess you could call, I'm sorry, this one is garden soil. Sorry, I was thinking SBC. So pre-fertilized planting and garden soil amendment, and it's formulated, we designed it for veggies initially, but it is not just used for that. It is used for anybody that has a poor nutrient soil and somebody that needs to add organic matter into the soil and open that soil up. So in-ground planting, we can also use it for trees and shrubs. We can use it to top dress plants that are nutrient starved or that are stressed or that are yellow or chlorotic. We can add it as a top dress around our vegetables. And this also has the mycorrhizal fungi in it. So let's go to the next one. It's our most nutritious amendment. It's perfect if you want to plant right away. It's your go-to when you want to recharge a raised bed. So let's say you had a raised bed last year. Instead of adding more raised bed, unless it's settled quite a bit, add the Harvest Supreme as your recharge. And you also have the garden soil, which will add more moisture holding, farmyard blend, chicken manure, and worm castings, and the compost. In summer, when you don't want to dig it in, top dress in large containers. If you had a big wine barrel and you wanted to reuse that soil and you empty it out 50-50 with this, put it back in, and it'll be fantastic. Now, again, Uncle Jerry says you need to have a conversation about their soil. That has to start right away. I got 4 more minutes. Tia, thank you for being on it with me. I appreciate you. Soil has to be part of the conversation every day, every customer, day in and day out. This is how we create success for our customers. If you've ever gone to paint a bathroom and they give you a drop cloth, a stir stick, and they don't give you the spatula and all the tape and everything you need, and you have to go back, it's harder to get it right the second time in the soil once we plant something. I'm going to send this to you. I have a lot on mycorrhizal fungi. It's symbiotic. It makes the nutrient, it increases the surface area of the root, which allows the plant to have more access to water and nutrients. It's phenomenal worm castings. Soil building conditioner, superstar product. This is a go-to for all of us at Kellogg. So is Harvest. This is great for hard pan clay soil. It is also good for sandy soils. It's also good for the opposite, because in a sandy soil, the larger particles create a matrix in the soil to begin the process of creating good soil structure. It also has gypsum in it. We'll talk more about that next week, and oyster shell. So it's an all-purpose soil amendment, planting mix, and mulch. It's also great as a seed top dressing for new or existing lawns. If you're doing sod, you don't want to just put the sod on top of your hard pan clay soil. First, you got to add 2 or 3 inches, rototill it in, level it, then put your sod down. And it's also great for bare root planting. And this has mycorrhizal fungi in it. The products that have mycorrhizae are Blue Ribbon Blend, Harvest Supreme, Soil Building Conditioner. Okay, we're in the home stretch, folks. I'm going to keep going on that. Mulches. This is such an important product to use as a mulch. That's all about top-down gardening. It creates a blanket over the top of the soil. It keeps the soil cool in the summertime, warm in the wintertime. It holds moisture. It minimizes evapotranspiration of the moisture in the soil. So I will send you this. This is kind of nice. This is something that Tammy made. Tammy and our team had put together. I think it's nice and concise. I'm a little verbose. This is how soil is made, right? It's top down. Let's go to, I'm going to send all of this to you and get to, if you ever see this type of fungal filament in a bale, it's a naturally occurring organism. It's not a pathogen. Just mix it into the soil, it'll be fine. So you have a lot of information that you will be getting. Biochar, the last 2 products that I have that I want to mention. So biochar has been on the planet as long as plants have been on the planet. We just made we have a new name for it. But as long as plants have been on the planet and there have been fires, there's ash in our soil. So here's what it is. You can use any kind of biological mass, any kind of biomass. So we use softwood. Now, biochar by itself, until it is inoculated with nutrients, it's really just an amendment. So think of wood. You take a piece of wood and you compost it, it becomes humus. Take a piece of wood and you put it through the pyrolysis system, you create a material that is more glass-like, crystallized, if you will, and lasts for hundreds up to thousands of years in the soil profile. So when we add it into the soil, so it has a high surface, so all the vacuoles, I can't even think of what all the different things inside the soil, inside the plant, all of those all the bone structure of the wood stays intact. And this becomes habitat for the biology. It increases more of the life in the soil. It also becomes a pantry for the living organisms. And it also works like a catalyst or an activator to make nutrients available to the plant faster. So let me back up. So it's habitat for biology. It retains moisture. This product has a new formulation. We added, this has core in it as well. So Blue Ribbon Blend, Raised Bed, Biochar have core in it. But we increased the peat moss on this product. So beautiful texture. Seed starter, all containers, hanging baskets, any window boxes, indoor, and using it as a seed starter, improves soil nutrient retention and moisture retention. So the bennies we use, so this is peat, core, pumice, softwood, biochar. I think my time is at 11, and I've talked about most of it. Faster rooting with this product. The biochar must be activated, as we mentioned. Let me just see at the end here. This is the garden soil. You will see this is texture. Beautiful product that you can plant directly into. You can all large pots. You could plant directly into this in a large pot. You can amend a garden soil. You can use in your raised beds. Very different from anything else that we have. These are some of the crops from a couple of our staff. This is one of the products that we donate money to Plant with Purpose. and I'm going to send all this to you. We have a calculator on our website. Here are some pictures. I'll do the pictures of different displays. I'll just go through them as I wrap up here. Some of our customers, different displays that people have done over the years, you know, merchandising, marketing, hugely important. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. This is my last, I have 2 slides. We are essential for a reason. People want to grow their own food. We're going back to basics. It's not enough for us to just show up. We have to dig deep and make sure that we bring our best every day, because we're going to be faced with more people that are stressed. Embrace an attitude of gratitude that we have work. We are so blessed. I can't believe how blessed I feel to be in this industry. So you're essential. Your work is essential. Thank you for your time. My email address, if anybody wants to write to me. Carrie, thank you. I am sorry I went over a little bit. Any questions we can address? If you want to send them in, I will answer all of them and get them to you before our next meeting next week.